Welcome to Trending Update USA, and I am Steffan, bringing you another deep dive report into the biggest question in women's tennis right now: who will finish the season as the WTA year-end number one according to the bold predictions made by Sky Tennis pundits? As the tennis world braces for the final sprint of the season, the debates are heating up, the ranking calculations are intensifying, and the pressure on the top women has reached its peak. The race for year-end number one has always been dramatic, but this year the unpredictability is off the charts, creating a storyline that feels almost cinematic, full of rivalry, suspense, surprise breakthroughs, and massive momentum shifts that could make or break careers. And as usual, the Sky pundits have jumped fully into the fire with strong, sometimes controversial predictions that have the tennis community buzzing. This year has been a roller coaster for every top contender. Coco Gauff's rise in major tournaments, Iga Świątek's iron consistency, Aryna Sabalenka's power-driven run, and Elena Rybakina's calm but dangerous form have formed the core of the season's drama. But who has the ultimate edge when you break down the numbers, the mentality, the surface strengths, and the upcoming schedule? The Sky experts have provided a range of opinions, some expected, others shocking, and today we take you through every angle, every argument, and every possible twist that may define who holds that coveted number one spot on the very last day of the WTA season. The discussion begins with Coco Gauff, who many pundits believe is entering the most dangerously effective phase of her career. Gauff started the year with heavy expectations, but what transformed her season, according to Sky analyst Mark Henson, was her shift from being a reactive player to an assertive, strategic competitor who dictates pace and controls the outcome of rallies. Henson argues that Gauff's growth and confidence has made her a reliable threat at every major event, not just hard courts where she's historically excelled. He predicts that if Gauff maintains her rhythm in the final two Masters events and performs strongly in the season-ending championships, she could mathematically push into the year-end number one conversation more aggressively than expected. What makes his prediction bold is the fact that Gauff began the season trailing in points, yet her accumulated consistency may create one of the biggest ranking turnarounds of the year. But of course, standing in her way is Iga Świątek, perhaps the most dominant force in women's tennis in the last 3 years. Sky's senior strategist Lucy Farrington believes Swiatek is still the overwhelming favorite. Her argument is centered around the sheer volume of ranking points Swiatek already holds, combined with her brutal efficiency on every surface except grass. Farrington highlights that Swiatek rarely loses early in tournaments, and that alone gives her a mathematical advantage others struggle to match. Her iron mental discipline, sharp anticipation, and world-class footwork keep her consistently deep in tournaments, and even on her off days, she finds ways to win matches most players would lose. Farrington says that unless Swiatek faces an unexpected injury or an uncharacteristic collapse in form, the number one ranking is hers to lose, and the Sky panel largely agrees with that sentiment. Yet if there's one player who has the guts and explosive power to rip the ranking apart, it is Aryna Sabalenka. Pundit Chris Darlington believes Sabalenka is actually the most dangerous player in the race because her ceiling is higher than anyone else's on tour. When Sabalenka's serve is firing and her unforced errors are under control, she becomes almost impossible to beat. Darlington predicts that Sabalenka's motivation after narrowly missing the year-end number one spot last season could push her to extraordinary results. He also notes that Sabalenka tends to shine in late-season indoor hard courts, where her power becomes even more overwhelming. But the wild card is her inconsistency. While she can produce brilliance, she can also unravel under pressure. Darlington says the year-end number one scenario for Sabalenka depends entirely on reducing self-destructive errors and playing with calm aggression. In contrast, the most intriguing prediction comes from Sky's tactical expert Daniel Moore, who surprisingly favors Elena Rybakina as the silent assassin, who could flip the rankings without anyone fully noticing until the last week of the season. Moore explains that Rybakina's schedule gives her more opportunities to gain points, especially in tournaments where she underperformed last year, and thus has fewer points to defend. Her effortless power, giant serve, and increasing comfort in long rallies have made her a threat virtually everywhere. Moore predicts that if Rybakina stays healthy, something that has been a challenge this season, she could mathematically leapfrog everyone in a late-season surge. His predicted scenario is very specific. Rybakina reaches at least the semi-finals in 3 major events, and goes deep in the year-end championships. If that happens, Moore believes she could steal the #1 crown in the final ranking update. But the Sky analysts didn't stop at just 4 contenders. They also discussed outsiders who could shake up the race indirectly by defeating one of the top names in crucial rounds. Players like Jessica Pegula, Ons Jabeur, and even rising stars like Mira Andreeva were mentioned as potential spoilers who could block a contender from scoring essential points. Sky's psycho-competitive analyst Julia Trent emphasized that the mindset going into the season's final stage is equally important as physical ability. Trent says Swiatek and Gauff have the strongest mental fortitude, while Sabalenka and Rybakina fluctuate more, making their paths slightly more unpredictable. "The psychological battle is half the ranking," she said. "When the margin is razor-thin, nerves decide who finishes #1. The debate then shifted to historical patterns. Year-end #1 often goes to players who win consistently across multiple surfaces, make deep Grand Slam runs, and stay injury-free. Swiatek checks all 3 boxes, which is why traditional analysts favor her. But modern tennis, especially with younger stars rising, has evolved into a more unpredictable landscape. Gauff's leap, Sabalenka's raw firepower, and Rybakina's ice-cold precision have created a uniquely competitive environment where certainty is rare. Sky's data projections also played a major role in the conversation. Based on their advanced statistical models, Swiatek still leads the probability chart with roughly a 52% chance of finishing #1. Gauff follows with around 21%, Sabalenka with 16%, and Rybakina with 11%. But the pundits made one thing clear: these percentages are not predictions, they're just mathematical reflections of past performance. The actual prediction from the Sky team is far more varied, with Gauff and Sabalenka getting strong support from analysts who believe in late-season momentum. The conversation also highlighted how the pressure of becoming year-end #1 affects each player. For Swiatek, it's a familiar goal. For Gauff, it's an opportunity to build her legacy. For Sabalenka, it's about redemption after coming close. For Rybakina, it's about proving she belongs at the very top. These emotional layers add intensity to every match from now until the final ball of the season. Sky pundits also noted that the year-end #1 rank is not just a title, it shapes sponsorships, legacy, public perception, and even future draws. The #1 spot is a major psychological weapon going into the next season. Players fight for it because it solidifies their dominance and influences their long-term status in the sport. As the season approaches its final crucial weeks, the pundits emphasize that small margins will determine everything. One tight tiebreak, one injury timeout, one mental lapse, or one unexpected win by a lower-ranked player could swing the entire standings. And that's why tennis fans worldwide are glued to every scoreline, every update, every storyline involving the top women in the game. To close the panel discussion, Sky's host summarized the predictions. Swiatek remains the overall favorite, but Gauff is the rising threat who could pull off the biggest surprise. Sabalenka is the powerhouse capable of taking the race by storm if she finds stability, and Rybakina is the dark horse with potential to rewrite the narrative. One thing is certain: the final chapter of this year's WTA season will be one of the most dramatic ranking races in recent history. As we continue monitoring every moment, every match, and every twist, stay tuned right here on Trending Update USA for constant coverage and analysis. I am Steffan, and this has been another in-depth breakdown of the WTA year-end #1 predictions from Sky Tennis pundits. The race is on, the tension is rising, and the outcome is more unpredictable than ever. Tennis fans, buckle up, this year's finale is going to be unforgettable.